I'm someone who's always liked or appreciated music videos. I know for one thing I always stated I definitely love Lady Gaga's music. When I say I love Lady Gaga, I don't mean like I'm in love with her. No, I mean like I love her as an artist, rather. Although I treat Lady Gaga's music as something catchy to listen to. I don't ever really know what any pop singer's music's about, and I seem to have a lack of interest to learn. All I know is, like, I'll see various things happen in videos, and I won't really understand what the purpose of those things happening is. Like, in Bad Romance, the music video to Bad Romance by Lady Gaga, in some instances, Lady Gaga looks really strange, almost like a doll or a mannequin or something. I'm wondering, like, that's odd. All I think about is, like, say with the MTV generation, or the whole MTV, what was it called, the MTV era, where music videos were never intended to make a whole lot of sense. They were just something interesting to stare at. That's all it was to it. That's kind of how I treat music videos, like with Katy Perry and Lady Gaga and all the popular artists. I don't really know what the music videos are trying to say, nor do I really care. It's just something fun to stare at as you listen to music you like. That's all. It's almost like you want to see what they do in that video, not because you want to know what it means. It's because you just want to know what the video is going to look like. I have always had a thing for parody, sketch comedy, or satire, particularly that directed against popular pop songs and stuff for pop singers. Like when they make fun of Britney Spears or Ashley Simpson or stuff like that. Or they make fun of a Lady Gaga video or something like that. I don't necessarily ever know much about how to analyze a music video. I just watch it. Like a simpleton, right? I'm getting the mail because we're going to be getting an awful lot of packages as of late, because I've been upgrading my, I plan to upgrade my Pentium 4 Dell Dimension 8100 we purchased in the middle of 2001, as far up as it'll go, to a point where it cannot be, you can't do anything more with it. Let's see. Yes, I like Lady Gaga. I would not consider myself a monster, or a little monster, or whatever she calls them. I just like her songs, among others. I think what distinguishes me from the little monsters of Lady Gaga's is that I don't really give much concern for what her music means. I just consider it more catchy things to listen to. I'm not, like, really into it. I'm just kind of, it's just fun to add to my to my life experiences and my memories and my nostalgia and stuff. Like, I love New Hampshire's North Country. I love traveling up there. And so, too, this is another thing that came. Be able to have music and stuff. I grow fond of the songs, and you figure, well, you might as well know who the heck sang that song or who did it, for instance. Many people want to know who done this. Marky Mark, and I'm here to move you. Right. One thing, though, there's a stereotype that guys who like Lady Gaga must be gay. They do that with people who like music by ABBA. I don't love ABBA's music, but I like certain songs. Like I love Waterloo and SOS and Take a Chance on Me and Mamma Mia and stuff. But I clearly get attracted to women, so I don't like those stereotypes. Although one thing about with Lady Gaga is, well, I'm not going to lie, fashion is definitely something I'm illiterate in. Like, when I go clothes shop, I hate clothes shopping. It's just, it takes a lot, it uses up a lot of money. It's not fun. It's like when your computer dies, and you have to replace it. And how much is this going to cost you? That's how I think of clothes shopping. I never care at all about what the brand is. I don't think I ever even look at the brand tag. I just go to get some clothes, you know. And somebody says, you know, what brand of pants, what brand of jeans are those, or what brand is that shirt that you have on? Chances are I'm not going to know. So I fit that realm of I'm the stereotypical guy. I hate shopping for clothes. I never care about what brand the thing is that I'm wearing. My mom likes to make jabs at me when she watches the TLC television show called What Not to Wear. She's like, hey, Mark could star in that show. Or, hey, Mark could go on that show. Oh, yeah, I think Stacey and Clinton might have met their most difficult task. Right, I think Stacey and Clinton might have met their match. Mom would be like, yeah, Mark could go on that show, What Not to Wear. Oh yeah, I think Stacey and Clinton might have met their match. In other words, not somebody who's like them, but somebody who's they can't fix, there's no hope. It's because there's interests. Different people have different interests. Fashion's definitely one thing I never really gave a darn about. I treat clothes just like something to put on to cover myself with. I never know what brand it is. Nor do I ever care. It's just, all I care about is if it's comfortable and if it does the job. Shoes. I only like having ever, for shoes, I only ever like having, you know, one single pair of shoes that covers my feet, pretty much nothing else. I always have just one pair, that's it. And again, I'm brand blinded. How to pronounce it? With my shoes, just as is the case with the rest of my clothes, I'm brand blinded. I don't care. And I also have the tendency to wear the same outfits a lot because I don't have a ton of clothes, because if I could find a way to bypass the clothes expenses, I would gladly do it, because there's certain things I prefer spending my money on. Like, for instance, if somebody gave me $600, I would be more apt to spend that $600 on motel and gas expenses involved in taking a 2-week vacation trip up to Littleton, New Hampshire, in New Hampshire's North Country. More to spend it on that versus spending that same money on clothes. No, I want to go up to New Hampshire. So I got less money to spend and more decision making to do. Whenever you have less to burn, or whenever you have less money to burn, you have to make a choice. And so, is it going to be another New Hampshire trip for more clothes? Well, duh, no brainer. I'm going to New Hampshire. So that's what I mean. I certainly would sink to the bottom of the ocean if I ever try. Fashion design, for instance, would not be my first career choice. I think I would do better working at a radio station. And people tend to come alive when they do. There's not much I love more than witnessing people do something that they're really good at, but that not everybody else is very good at. So again, there's few things I like more than watching people do things that they happen to be good at, but that someone else might not be as good at. They stick to what they know best. So somebody might know a ton about something that I could care less about, and then I might know a ton about something that someone else might care less about. That's why there's so many different occupations and professions in the world, because of that. I have a real knack for memorizing the call signs and the city locations of small-town, low-budget, full-service radio stations without websites. Usually pronounced as small-town radio stations without websites. I got a list of them memorized. So lots of my talents are things that don't earn any money. They're just very random and trivial. I definitely have a thing for small-town radio stations without websites. And if the station has no website, I'll like it even more. Ugly Betty was a fun show to watch. I only ever watched season 1. I think the Betty Suarez character, she was a different person than me, but I think that she shared some of my characteristics. Like she's brand blind with clothes. She's not really all into that whole shtick, but she's more into having values and being like unspoiled and stuff, and she's a prisoner, she's a slave to her conscience. That's one thing about me. I can never hold a secret inside very long. I have to come clean, however embarrassing or uncomfortable it might be. In other words, I like being kind of innocent, you know. But then sometimes every once in a while people will push me too far and I'll get a little bit tense. But then I go into denial that I ever got that tense because I want to feel convinced that I'm very innocent and stuff. I think I got like personal insecurity issues where I lose faith in myself, and I always have to reconvince myself that I'm a good person because I keep doubting myself. And so with all how I keep second guessing and doubting myself, I have to compensate for that by looks like that got that out of there. Oh, that's something different. Compensate. Well, I have to compensate for all the self-doubt and second-guessing by saying, oh, no, I'm a very nice person who would never do all this corrupt stuff that various other people will do. And in the process, I badmouth other people, not realizing it. Like, in other words, going, I'm better than that. Because I don't have enough self-esteem to already know that I'm okay. I have to go the extra mile and start sucking up to people and kissing up and telling people what I think all the things that I think they might want to hear versus what I really think. So I keep, telling people what I think they might want to hear versus, I'll tell them what I think they might want to hear versus, what do I really think? No, I can't tell people what I really think because then they might get mad and not like it. So basically, my life story is trying to make strides to avoid getting people mad at me by telling them all the things I think they're really going to want to hear, and telling them only the things I feel truly that they're going to really want to hear, as opposed to what I really think. No, because I'm too afraid that what I really think might be inappropriate. So it's too much blocking, I think. What I think is that I almost forgot what I really think. I have to try really hard. Well, this is one thing I always intended to say, though. I could always try to imitate or do impersonations of the ones who end up performing better on the popularity meter. I could at any point in time try to imitate somebody who's more popular and has a better reputation than I. But I'm not gonna, because I want to be myself. Because usually going as yourself is the best person you can ever go as. So I like being myself. I'm always going to act like this. No matter how rich or successful I ever become, I like to feel convinced that I'll always continue to act the way I always did. Because it's a form of power trip or defense mechanism on my part to think like that, because I keep doubting myself or forgetting all the positivities about me, and I keep focusing on the things I don't have and forgetting about the things I already do have. So part of the compensation for my happiness, or lack of it, due to how I keep doubting or second-guessing myself, is going, well, I'm not going to be one of those ungrateful, spoiled, arrogant, famous people. I'm going to be different than that. Not realizing that subconsciously I'm insulting various other famous people just for my own personal self-confidence gain, because of the fact that my self-esteem was low enough that I actually had to degrade other people to make myself feel better. Have I ever gone to a counselor? Never in my life. I'm not so sure that my father believes in counselors. He always goes, I'll get you one. Don't try to get one yourself, because you might end up in some hole in the wall, like outhouse of a facility where you're going to be in there with all the axe murderers, and it's not going to be a good fit. You better let me get you the counselor. And then months fall off the calendar, and he never gets me one. And sometimes I hear various preachings or snide comments made by my father about how people think that they can go to some whiz who can fix all their problems. And then I go, bingo. That's just what bingo. I'll just think in my mind when I hear him make those comments, sort of that are anti-counselor or anti-therapist belief comments, is like, bingo. That's just as I thought. Bingo, bingo. I knew it. I knew this is what he thought. No wonder he's not getting me any help. Mark, you don't need that. You just need to get a life. So then when I took the bull by the horns and tried to locate a doctor myself, he warned that I could end up getting in the wrong place that's not appropriately suitable for me because I made inexperienced attempts to try to get that counselor myself without his help. Whereas I gotta realize that his help might never come, so that might have been the only way, was taking some initiative. So if he is able to discourage me there, oh, I don't want to cut myself here. That would not be fun. Let's see what came in this box. The memory. Oh, this is the 2.0 USB. Yes. Yikes, pazikes, I'm so paziked. I got this new technology here. It's 2.0 USB. And it is fast. Basically, 2.0, well, 2.0 USB is the latest technology in USB data transfer technology, capable of producing data transfer processes at breakneck speeds. 2.0 USB can make data transfer processes go up to 40 times faster than with my standard USB outlet. So I'm definitely psyched to get that. And this is a cable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the line, the internet, and try and locate out something and get some of my own money. I'm so excited though about this new 2.0 thing. Basically, I'll be able to transfer data faster than ever before. So that's a good thing. 2.0 is extremely fast. It's like unbelievable. Your data's right there. It'd be the first time in my life I've ever owned a computer with 2.0 USB. It's really incredible though. I mean, 2.0 USB is fast. Exactly. I could empty out a 16 gigabyte digital camera memory card in under 20 minutes. That's fast. I mean, it used to always take me 555 through 570 minutes. So basically, I think of, you know what being hard of hearing is, right? Or being partially deaf means? Well, I like to think of Asperger's syndrome as being the nonverbal communication equivalent of partial deafness. Whereas what you are partially deaf in is the ability to interpret and recognize and interpret body language or the emotions that the person you're listening to is giving out. So the ability to hear what your speaker is saying, but the inability to interpret what they mean. They might be getting nervous. They might be getting frustrated or annoyed. They might be getting excited about something. But all that the person with Asperger's syndrome is generally able to do is to listen to what they're saying to you. But they're kind of partially deaf to what they're thinking. And then when it finally occurs to you that you won't be able to get the nonverbal signals until several hours later, when you might be very drowsy, and as you're trying to fall to sleep, suddenly you get jolted by a signal that you missed at the time, but then suddenly it's like, oh, I see. And it's intense. It's because Asperger's syndrome is a form of autism, which autistic people tend to have the tendency to shy away. It's like the classic scenario of when you hug an autistic person. Whenever somebody hugs, it never comes natural to me, the inclination to want to hug someone. And if somebody were to hug me, my brain would be like going crazy, being like, push them away or something. And I would have to completely ignore that instinct and actually hug them back, even though it's like if you were wearing these magical goggles where you could see what the person was really thinking or how they were really reacting emotionally. It would show my arms frantically like flailing or trying to get them off, but then in real life I'm hugging back. What I do is I completely ignore or override that impulse. So if I'm watching a movie and there's this actor or actress with very powerful nonverbal communication that I'm actually able to interpret, my brain is screaming, I don't want to look at it, I don't want to look, and I have to completely ignore it. So what I'll do is I'll lay my arms flat, like I'll make my arms and legs really straight, and I'll just get way calm and relaxed, even though my brain is thinking the opposite. So I have to ignore it. I have to ignore what my brain wants me to do and do the exact opposite of what my brain wants me to do. That's how I feel. My brain wants me to do something completely different, and I have to ignore it and do the opposite. But sometimes you just can't hide the truth. You could either, be revealing and open up about yourself and tell the honest truth, or you can keep trying to cover up the truth. And it usually suits your best interest to just be honest and forthcoming. Let's see. It's really intense when I suddenly realize or recognize the nonverbal cues. Now, given the fact that I really had to have been concentrating and focusing and concentrating really well at the moment as the person was speaking to me, that's the only way I've got any hope of those nonverbal signals to suddenly jump out at me later on, several hours later. It only works if I really focused at the time. But I cannot expect to read or interpret the signals immediately. I have to expect that it's going to take me a very long time to actually have it happen. And each signal will come at me one at a time. So I might get like 5 to 10 seconds worth, where it's almost like that scene where on one of those Lord of the Rings movies, where one of the characters, I don't know which one, touched this sort of a sphere-like object. And it was so intense. It was like, whoa, like it was really overwhelming and overloading to his mind and his circuitry. That's what happens. It's like, if any of you have ever had these dreams where you fall sort of a modest distance or a moderate distance and you jerk when you wake up, something like that, that's what happens. Now, here's what I think the problem is. Asperger's syndrome is completely neurological. And it's almost like you think of it whereas when the body language is way stronger than normal, like when you got a very talented award-winning actress or something. It's almost, think of it like when you're eating with sensitive teeth. And suddenly when you strike the nerve, oh, it's just like intense. And so it's almost like my nerves are asleep in the department of interpreting body language, and then suddenly something, it's numb, I don't feel anything, and then boom, ouch. That's what it's like. And when you feel it, you don't know how to respond. You're like, whoa, it just happened. Oh my God, what was that? It's kind of like when people panic. Like, I'll panic, I've got this, I thought of this thing, and it's strange. People say they fear what they don't understand, or that people with higher IQs or more aptitude in something tend to get scared less because they understand things better. If interpreting nonverbal communication requires a part of your brain, which I'm in like the 15th or lower percentile in, then I'm going to feel very much like I'm trying to take a test, and I'm like, oh, I know this. And I'm like, tap my head, and I'm like, trying to, oh, come on. The more I try to force myself to remember what it was I wanted to say, the more frustrated I become. And it's like, you ever have that time where you have something you really wanted to say, or there's this word that was at the tip of your tongue, you can't quite remember what it was, and then after everyone leaves and you lost your opportunity, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, that's what I wanted to say. It comes at random, and you can never really find anything quick enough. And so people say that communication, there's a very high percentage of communication or human communication that's represented by, or I'll start over. People say that there's a very high percentage or concentration of human communication that's represented not by the words that come out of the people's mouths. Much communication is signals and expressions. Verbal communication represents only a very tip of the iceberg. Well, imagine if instead of losing your hearing, you lost your nonverbal hearing, so that you could only understand what people were saying to you verbally. but you didn't understand anything that they were hinting or indicating. And you have to really concentrate, or you have to hope that your speaker has some acting/drama training so that they can be good at conducting their body, you know, to give good nonverbal and stuff. Exactly. Like, I noticed that people who have had drama training and stuff, I have an easier time reading. But then note that I frighten easily. Like, for instance, I would never shoplift or try to steal things because with my Asperger's syndrome, I get scared of sudden situations or sudden frightening new situations. So, like with the law enforcement officials trying to tell me to stop, or like, you stole this item, or blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to want to steal because I fear and anticipate a scary situation and stuff. That's the thing. I notice it's almost like my mind is resisting. So, like, say there's an actor or actress. I don't keep up with the show Days of Our Lives, but the actress that plays Melanie, for instance, I have no clue why this is, but somehow I can read her more easily than most people. Usually, I find out when there's actually an actor or actress that I'm able to read the nonverbal cues of better than most people. I discover on Wikipedia or somewhere on the internet that actor or actress I had less trouble than normal reading so happened by chance to win multiple awards in acting. And what I notice happens is that sometimes my natural inclination is to look away. My brain doesn't want to look. And I noticed that after a while, my mind is thinking like, I almost feel like my mind is like trying to shut down on me or something, like it doesn't want to. So I went, oh, so that's why I have trouble reading nonverbal, because my brain is rejecting it. It's like, picture one hand pushing in one direction, and the other hand is pushing in the opposite direction. It's like it's wrestling it away. It doesn't want it. Stuff. Think of it like this. When the nonverbal communication is stronger than normal and I'm actually able to read it. Well, when the nonverbal communication is actually strong enough and I'm actually able to read it and it breaks through the barrier, think of how it feels like if somebody were to tell you to lie down on the ground, face up, and make a promise with them not to flinch or panic as people run and jump over you. So you have to lay face down on the ground. Somebody tells you to lay face down on the ground, looking up, and to promise to stay calm and not flinch or panic or block with your arms as people run and jump over you. Your mind is screaming because you're afraid that somebody is going to land on you or something. But you have to do the opposite of what your brain tells you and be calm. Even though you're like, I can't be calm, what if they fall on me? So it's the same idea. I think it's to do with autism, which autistic persons their minds tend to reject things. They don't want things to get too close or that. And so I always have to ignore my brain when it sends those signals of rejection. But it's like, so maybe subconsciously my mind does not want to read the body language. And then when you got a very talented actor or actress who's screaming the nonverbal cues, and they're strong enough that signals get, basically your mind gets forced to read them. It doesn't like it. But also what I might not realize is when I'm saying, somehow I'm actually able to read this actress, although I don't really know why. You might only be reading a small piece of it. That's like if somebody's hard of hearing and they try to seek out the person they have the hardest time hearing. Probably the woman with the highest pitched voice or something, or maybe the one who talks sort of a California Val talk or Val speak type of dialect or something. It's usually people with a bit of an accent, like Miley Cyrus has an accent or something. What happens is that the hard of hearing person might be able to hear the person better because they're closer, but they might only be hearing a piece of their voice, like only certain frequencies of it. They might be hearing the person because they're close enough to the speaker with a higher voice so that they can hear the lower parts of her voice well enough to piece together all of the words and dialect, even though they're not completely hearing, the person's not completely hearing the woman's voice, because he or she might be missing the higher fidelity elements of the voice, but the person's close enough that they can piece together all the words and stuff through the lower bass parts of the voice. It's the same way. It's like, so maybe when I think I'm actually able to read the communication, maybe I'm not really reading it. Maybe I'm kind of just barely getting by a thread. As they say, people who are extremely hard of hearing, who wear hearing aids and stuff, certain forms of hearing loss, people are still hanging by a thread. So if any distraction or background noise gets mixed in, they can't hear it good. It's the same idea. Maybe I'm under the assumption or generalization, I might be under the general assumption or sensation that I'm actually able to read this person, when in fact maybe it's just that their level of intensity in their nonverbal speech was just enough, barely enough, to push it over the top so that I could read it a little bit. I might only be able to read certain parts of the nonverbal spectrum, like maybe. So I'm sort of reading a little bit, but maybe at like a much reduced intensity. So I'm sort of reading it, but at a much reduced intensity. It'd almost be like booting up your computer in safe mode. Right, so it's almost like a manually forced type of a deal. Yes, but it's true. The Melanie character from this show called Days of Our Lives, for some reason unbeknown to me, I'm actually able to read her. I don't know why, but somehow I am. Also, the actress who played the Mary Jane character in the Spider-Man live-action movies, Kirsten Dunst. I have no clue why this is, but somehow I'm able to read her. But what happens is that, and then when I'm actually able to read them, the truth gets out that I think about myself a lot, is that I'm being too self-absorbed, and my thoughts keep directing back to myself too much. My sister's an actress, so I can usually read her pretty good. I'll startle and then I won't want to communicate. Like, when my sister gets mad at me or something, or she goes like, Mark, I'm not going to feed into it. I'm going to, like, try to, like, slip away or something. Those scenes between Wilhelmina Slater and that Mark character in Ugly Betty. It's, you know, as soon as Wilhelmina gets that way, instead of wanting to communicate with her or work things out, I'm like, oh shoot, she's mad, I want to get out of here. That's what I'm like. I find that the people who have stronger nonverbal communication ability tend to be a little more humanitarian and more about thinking about others, and they tend to get annoyed with me a lot because I'm kind of selfish. I learn more slowly. I take longer to grow up, I think, than some people. But in other aspects, I'm a really excellent guy, but I don't give myself enough credit for the things I'm good at, and that causes me to forget about my accomplishments and to second guess or doubt myself, thereby feeling the need to have to compensate for my failures by trying to act like a suck-up or something, or trying to always convince people, including myself, what a great person I am. Maybe even causing me to, those tendencies even causing me to tell people what I think they might want to hear, as opposed to, I forget the beginning of it, telling people what I think. Well, sucking up, always kissing up all the time, and being very modest and trying to tell people what I think they might want to hear, as opposed to what I really think. I don't want to tell what I really think because I'm so motivated to not make people mad at me. Right, well, I don't want them to get mad at me. Exactly. So that's what happens is I get so caught up in trying to please people and have people, please don't get mad at me, that I let that scare me away from saying what I really think. Although I mean every word, and I mean what I say, and say what I mean though when I say I'm very anti-sexist and anti-homophobic. That's me written all over it. I all my life wanted to show that I was going to ignore differences and stuff. Whenever somebody has a really horrible stutter or something, I ignore it. I try to ignore that. And not let it get to me. Don't let it bother me. And so that's how it goes. I think I have personal insecurity issues, and I'm always trying to gain ground by trying to prove to people. It's always as though I got something to prove. So with that said, things piss me off when people reject my attempts at kindness. For instance, there was this very scary movie. It was called Phone Booth. Now, I admit to being from that generation. I admit to being from that generation of the whole, mid to late 90s. It seemed very 90s horror to me. Guy with a very creepy, demanding voice calling you over the telephone. I mean, that's how the original movie Scream always worked, right? Where those movies from the Scream, the movie was called Scream, and it always involved a creepy guy on a telephone stuff. So I thought the movies the movie Phone Booth I found it to be very scary because I'm kind of a product of the, mid to late 90s generation. So it was from my whole era, basically. Like my desktop computer is from, I call it my college desktop computer, is dated 2001. So that's my whole era right there. One thing about that guy that pissed me off, right, this would have gotten my temper going. When he started, the psychopath on the opposite line starts making hints, he starts hinting or cluing Stewart that he might possibly, he was kind of, suggesting that to Stu that he might be a Vietnam War veteran. Yeah, the psycho on the other line was kind of making hints or suggestions that maybe he was saying some things that might hint or suggest that he was a disgruntled Vietnam War veteran. With that in mind, Stu wanted no more than to help him. So he said, it's true, my dad went to Vietnam and blah, blah, and oh yeah, and lots of people didn't get the recognition they need. He just wanted to make himself feel better, reassure that he was a nice guy. So he wanted to, show, I could get you the publicity. I could get you the recognition you need. Then that guy's like, come on, charred bodies, napalm. And how naive are you? I'd have to be 50 to have been in that war. I would have been glaring very angrily, very mad. I would have been so pissed off because I wanted to inflate my self-esteem and my personal self-image by going, I'm going to help this Vietnam veteran. He'll be so proud of me. He'll be so proud of me, I'll make a friend out of this guy. He's just a little disgruntled. And I'm going to step in and make things better. And then he turns around and says, I'd have to be 50 to have been in that war. I've been so pissed. I could picture myself, glaring. And then later in the scene, when he's like, oh, please don't ignore this. My mother used to be so neglectful and ignore me. And then I feel like oh, yeah, I didn't always get along with my mom all the time. It can be better. Not just joking. I had a very happy childhood. Don't do that. God. That's what I'd be thinking, God, it's making me very hard to help you. Or no, I would have just don't do that. Probably, and I quote, don't do that. God. All this time I've been making an effort to help you, and it's always a trick. I got angry because that robbed me of the opportunity to inflate my self-image by thinking of myself as somebody who helps people. Because, see, that's another flaw of mine. The reason why I think, although AJ, or Amanda Menchaca, she's got the jam radio going, but that's one of the reasons why, though, I think that she and our personalities clash, because whenever I try to be helpful and charitable, my mind keeps going back to me. How good this will reflect onto me. How good all these good actions and good deeds will reflect upon to my own personal reputation. Versus some people act just out of the pureness of their heart. See, that's not me. That's one of the elements or aspects of how I take longer to grow up. How I have the tendency to, for instance, charity is not about you. It's about the people you're trying to help. Although my mind keeps subconsciously always making the charity about me. Well, that's the hypothetical charity. I suck at humanitarianism. I'm not going to lie. That's not my cup of tea. It's not my shtick. I know. But, I definitely know that my sister might get perturbed. Just as I picture, AJ might get perturbed. AJ Menchaca, she's like, God, he's only, it's quite obvious that Mark's only doing this for his own self so that he can live with himself better, as opposed to the people he's trying to help. My grandfather got a little annoyed with me on that, too. That's like when two companies or multiple businesses of the same industry, say all the local radio owners or something, try to participate in some sort of a charitable thing to support, breast cancer research or something. And all the companies are competing to see which company or business can raise the most money, more money than the rest. And they turned it into a great big tug-of-war competition and stuff. That's what I'm like. I'm not going to lie, that's what I get like. I just get very, like, I did better than you did. I'm immature like that. And I think I have a saying when it comes to certain, religious community ideas and ideologies, is that my saying is that either you got it or you don't got it. And if you don't got it, stop kidding yourself, because you're not fooling anyone. That's a saying I love. Either you got it or you don't got it. And if you don't got it, stop kidding yourself, because you're not fooling anyone. There's this Cold Mountain was this movie, right? There was this church guy, but he obviously was less than perfect. So I thought, with the biggest smile on my face, either you got it or you don't got it. And if you don't got it, stop kidding yourself, because you're not fooling anyone. Like, I don't got it. I'm not the most perfect person in the world, so I'm not going to act all religious, because the bottom line is I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying? I fiend about attractive females a lot. I'm not exactly the most perfect, although, so I'm not going to make believe that I am close to all God and all the morality, ethical cleanliness, I should say, and moral values, because in real life, I'm not going to try to say that, because I know who I really am. So I'm just not going to try to tell a white lie and act like I'm more perfect than I actually am, because I know I'm not perfect, so I don't need to put on that fake. I could sound very insulting to people who are more religious. I could sound like I'm being insulting to religious people by saying this. But that's not really my intent. My intent's basically that my idea is that in my personal experiences, because again I am exercising my rights as a citizen of a free country, is that I just feel no need to say that I am, sin-free or whatnot, because I know that I'm not. So I know that I don't need, and there was this whole confession thing in that movie starring Clint Eastwood. It was called Gran Torino. Oh, sure, just go into that box and confess and everything, and everything's gone, right? It just doesn't work that way. Now, but the problem is that people say these things in the privacy of their home. But if a famous person says this stuff, their career is destroyed. But then you got to look at the context. Maybe a certain celebrity who says inappropriate things might be violent, or they might have drugs or alcohol problems. I don't name names, by the way. I'm just saying I feel trapped when I don't get to live out who I really am. When people just want me to, like, live out like a saint, you know. I just want to be who I really am.